Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on CNBC Africa. On In Focus today, we will delve deep into the activities of AFEX Commodities Exchange, an organization whose founding goal is to support Africa's food security. In 2020, AFEX marked 5 years since beginning work in Nigeria, and on the show today, we'll reflect on their journey so far. CEO Ayodeji Balogun says that they have built a network of over 160,000 farmers and cumulatively facilitated over 200,000 metric tons in trade. He joins me now for more details. Thank you so much for your time today on the show, Ayodeji. And let's first wind back the clock and look at how this the initial 5 years of your organization played out.
It's great to be here today, and it's really momentous for us at AFEX. To be celebrating this great milestone. We started in Nigeria, got through a partnership with the federal government of Nigeria in 2014, but operations started really in 2015 when we looked at the whole history of setting up commodities exchanges as a way to organize the market for agriculture, and felt like the primary focus was really to go back and start from the farm. So it was a journey where we went to the farmers, asked a lot of questions to understand what their pain points really were, and then spend a lot of time framing solutions that could address some of those problems at scale. So 3 things came out very top on the list of needs to be done in the journey to building a commodities exchange. So one was to be able to enhance their productivity by provision of loans, access to capital to produce. Second was storage was a big issue, and then that led to a lot of post-harvest losses. Also could make farmers not able to sell at premiums because of quality degradation. And then the third was access to markets. How can you bridge that whole journey from the farm to the factory and make it as efficient as possible? So this primarily then became the form at the core of what we did at AFEX and how we decided to build it. So if you fast forward 2-3 years down the line, we brought in technology as we started to scale, and then found out that we had crossed 50,000 farmers landmark, and we needed to start mining a lot of data. We needed to start improving the points of which we collected. We needed to refine the business model for efficiency. And today we're proud that we have some of the largest and most robust technology stack in the agriculture play, but also even in the financial inclusion play, connecting farmers to access to capital, bringing the capital market to play in the commodity space for the first time ever on the continent. Then trying to standardize, instruments that can be traded. We're proud of all of what we've done. When we look at the impact we've created with hindsight, we're just even more grateful.
All right, but looking at this journey and your founding goal as an organization, I understand, yes, food security is key for you, but then we've seen that the COVID-19 pandemic bring into the fore the importance of that building that resilience in the food value chain. I'd like you to speak to this point and how that has reflected in your journey.
COVID-19 really exacerbated the fractures in our food supply chain, locally, but even globally. So, if you look at the last 2 decades, one of the big themes has been globalization and global supply chains. So the world over, companies have moved to a point where it's almost sort of real-time direct delivery, very hyper-efficient supply chains. And then you find that all the products, the processors were very disconnected from the producers. Now, COVID brought in a reality of the whole world and the entire supply chain globally freezing for a long time. And that just put a test to this whole model of hyper-globalization. Now, what have we also started seeing a lot of trends in, particularly today, is one that supply chains need to be shorter. Number 2, brands and consumers are asking more questions about the integrity of what they consume, the nutritional value of the food, the quality, but even more important, what impact is that whole supply chain having on the producer? What fair share of the consumer spending is actually going back to the farmer that is producing this? And we've seen this play out in high commodities like cocoa, but even in very smaller, shorter value chains like sorghum and maize that gets into our daily consumption. Now, what AFEX has been able to do is to create a very transparent, very traceable supply chain that takes it right from the point of the farmer, identify the farm with the bags of commodities into the warehouses, and allows for fair, efficient transactions using technology. but also assures that any factory, any processor that we then work with, be it in the livestock sector, be it in our food and beverage sector, or even in the international market where we sell about 10% of our commodities to, they can trace these products almost at the bag level to the farmer that produced it. Now, this does two things. One is it assures the final consumer of the integrity of the food that they're consuming. Second, it gives the farmer a share of that value. It makes him able to earn a lot more than he would have had just being able to, if he had just sold those products in the open market.
All right, but let's look back the years now and then record some of the impact that you've achieved in this time.
When you look at the numbers, and this is really, so what we did was to then look back at our transactions over the last 5 years, looking from the Sustainable Development Goals, and that framework. And we paid particular focus on 5 of the 17 SDG goals. First, around ending hunger. Second, ending poverty. Third, around gender equality. Fourth, around economic jobs and decent economic growth. And fifth, around responsible consumption. And that really touches from the farmer who produces the food, making sure that we can reward our female farmers better. The farmer that is producing the food can enjoy the dignity of labor, can earn a fair wage, can live outside the poverty trap. But also the people that are buying can enjoy from the efficiency in the supply chain. And then the final consumers enjoy from the process of responsible supply chains. Now, what we've seen is that over 3 years, farmers that work with us for up to 3 years are completely out of the poverty cycle. They earn above Nigeria's national poverty line, which is indeed a great thing. When you look at the baseline data for Nigeria, over 18% of farmers live within extreme poverty, and even more when you count people that are near poverty. We're so proud of this opportunity to be able to touch lives of thousands, tens of thousands of farmers. When you also look at things around food security, which is even a bigger pain in the country. Almost half of Nigeria's population now lives within poverty and is at risk of hunger. We've seen that over 45% of AFEX farmers are food secure, and then they have enough food to sustain them for the entire year. Now, if you compare this with baseline data, that says only 15% of farmers in Nigeria are food secure. You see that our farmers have 3 times higher probability of being food secure. So this is some of the things that you can achieve when you're very deliberate as a corporate in how your transactions impact the lives. As a capital market operator, working within the regulation of the Securities and Exchange Commission, our primary mandate is to ensure that the capital that we are able to unlock from the capital markets goes right to the farmer and make sure that it can create impact. It can ensure that we have a country that can feed itself, but is even more importantly, that is prosperous.
All right, interesting points here expressed there. And I would like to take it a step further and look at the yardstick you're using to measure this impact. I understand that you have 3 engines on 3 areas, which is rural impact, processing impact, and the macro impact. Can you shed more light on this?
When you look at the direct transactions that come from, so the first part is that our engagement from the farmer, because if you take out the farmer from the food story or the food systems, the entire system breaks down. So the first point is that right in that rural community, how much economic activity are we able to foster? How much collaborations can we develop? What is the impact of the transactions we do? Be it giving the farmer a loan, being given the warehouse receipt loan, be it the training extension services that we provide, or the social infrastructure that we're able to improve within those communities. The next part of the impact measurement is around the trade transactions. So when you then take the product right from the farmer to the factory, what efficiency are you creating? How much food losses are you able to prevent? And food losses is a big issue in the country. If you look at the value, about 14% of grains in sub-Saharan Africa goes to waste. Africa's food that goes to waste is over $1 trillion. Just the value of the food that we lose in storage. Now, AFEX is the first entity in Nigeria to provide storage as a service to smallholder farmers, but also even to larger processors. And this model has really, really driven and changed the entire storage business as a country. Then when you look at, so one is the food safety issues that we're able to manage. Second is the issue around reducing post-harvest losses. And third is that players that then have products in the warehouse can leverage financing and delay sales. That allows farmers to earn about 25% more income to them. It also allows processors that use this way to buy grains to enjoy a lot more savings and predictability in their cash flows. The third part of it is the entire capital markets and how we have been able to pioneer a completely new way of doing business in the capital markets. So before we started 2 decades ago, there's been over 10 attempts to set up commodities exchange in Africa, almost all of which have failed. It is really interesting that we've been successful at doing this and building a model that is not just unique to Nigeria, but is scalable across Africa.
All right, but it's just about a decade to the deadline for the global goals now. And when you look at the efforts at the continental level to drive agriculture in there, I'd like you to speak to some of the areas you see as green shoots and what this portends as for the commodities market that you operate in.
When you look at the SDG goals, really ambitious goals, and it is important that we reiterate that we're on the second track of really solving for these problems. And this now we have 10 more years to go. But when you look at the kind of capital that is within the philanthropic baskets to address these goals primarily, you find that they're grossly insufficient, especially when you look at a continent like Africa that has very small philanthropic dollars that is generated by itself. You see that the needs and the amounts that needs to go in to be able to address all the 17 SDG goals are by far in multiples of what is available. Government budgets also can't solve those problems. So it is in our view and in our we believe that it is the role of corporates to then create instruments that in the model of doing their business are able to create solutions and products that address these goals directly. That way, it is then easier because there is a lot more capital that can be raised, from a commercial vehicle, but there's a lot more innovation and entrepreneurship that then comes to then, accelerate and catalyze the achievement of these goals. In our experience at AFEX, food systems is extremely important because, one thing that is a true part of all our existence is that we will all eat and we will all feed and we will all pay for a meal or two every day. That is part of who we are as human beings. And when you look at the power of food, you can actually transform a lot. Now, when we look at the direct impact within our theory of change, we found that we have a very direct relationship in how we can create a food secure continent. Secondly, we can create farmers that are rich, not farmers that are just less poor. And this is extremely important that we frame it right. We can have farmers who are rich and earn in multiples of the national baseline. Third is that we can reward our gender. We can go and compete in the economic activities of the world with our best resources, which is the female gender. Fourth is that we can ensure that we create jobs for our teeming youth population. Lastly, but not least, is the part around responsible consumption of the processors. Can we ensure that the processors that provide the food we eat ensure that these things are produced both in a nutritious, sustainable manner, but one that actually supports the existence of Earth. In our ambitions over the next 5 years, we seek to work with 1 million rich farmers, 1 million food secure farmers, 35% of which should be female. And this is something that we're committing a lot of resource, but we're also putting a lot of our talent towards achieving.
Definitely sustainability, very key in the future of the food systems in Africa. Thank you so much for your time today. Interesting insights put forward there by Ayodeji Balogun, who is the CEO of AFEX Commodities Exchange. And thank you so much for watching this In Focus today. And a big congratulations to the amazing team at AFEX as you continue your work to support food security on the continent. I'm Kenneth Igbomo, and thank you so much for watching.